G'day bird nerds, nature nuts, garden enthusiasts. If any of you are here, I'm Grant. I'm a bird nerd. Folks, I've been sucked into a black hole, a whirlwind of, well, is it craziness? I'm not sure. I was watching a video about, oh, that's Loz too, by the way, up there. He's my avian consultant. So you will hear him participating as we go. Him, her, it. I'm really bad with the hims and hers and its. Sorry, I'm old. Okay. Does the thylacine still exist? Does the thylacine still exist? Okay. We're going to watch a video together about, produced by a fella who absolutely believes it, but there's some really weird stuff in the video. And then after we watch the first video, there's a lot more bits of information that were kind of raised in the video we're about to watch. And I want to go over some of it. And this guy's a wildlife biologist, but just check the way the video is produced and the conversation that is had. And look, throw in your thoughts in the comments as we go, because I think this could be a bit of fun. Now let's, we'll do it this way. Here we go. We'll do it this way. And we'll get it up. I'm going to play it now, and I'll be looking for your comments along the way. If you're watching on Instagram, and if you are, welcome. Your live stream will only last for an hour, thanks to Instagram. So if you'd like to be part of it all and get your comments highlighted and everyone joined in, the best place to go is YouTube. Thebirdemergency.com/YouTube will take you straight there. Oh, hello, and let me just say hello to the Riot Squad. If you are here, make yourself known. Naomi, I know you are here. Hello. Hello X/Twitter. And hello to Facebook. And hello to Twitch. Hi. So you can comment, and I will bring them up, and we'll discuss your thoughts. But first, let's go with this. Oh, and also too, if you're having any issues with the streaming platform that you're using, let us know, and we'll see if I can do something about it if there is a problem. Okay, this was produced in, let me just see, 4 days ago, apparently. And hang on, was it 4 days ago? I think so. All right. Anyway, the 410,000 views 4 days ago. And, yeah, here we go. And the comment or the description of this video: for years, sightings of the Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, thanks Loz, have persisted throughout mainland Australia and Tasmania. I have personally been on expeditions to both of these places and believe there is one last place to look: Papua New Guinea. Here are some of my reasons why I believe the Tasmanian tiger is still alive. And this dude, Forrest Gallant, or Galante, I'm not sure which one it is a world-renowned wildlife biologist and TV host. His mission is to inspire and educate people about animals and adventure through the media, including hosting programs on Discovery Channel, on-camera expert interviews, and production of his own wildlife and natural history shows. All right, so this is him. This is the channel. I don't like sort of drawing too much attention to things usually in people's backgrounds and whatnot, but there's a hell of a lot of booze just over his shoulder there. Anyway, let's watch this. And look, please jump in with comments and stuff, because this is a wild ride. And we've got more to follow up after this. I'll stop as we go and probably pull faces and things, but let's see. Let us see.
Since being declared extinct over 40 years ago, the thylacine has generated more controversy and obsession than any other extinct animal, with reportedly hundreds of sightings since
40 years ago?
Being equally obsessed and convinced it's still out there, I spent the last 8 years covering over 1,000 ground miles in search of it. And I was truly starting to believe it was gone, until a recent bit of information that no one else on the planet has that is undeniably the closest thing to a living thylacine that anybody has ever seen. This video will detail everything I've found so far that convinces me that the thylacine still exists. In 2016, for the pilot episode of Extinct or Alive, we started our search in Tasmania. Tasmania, the last known location of the thylacine to ever.
Sorry, I knew I was going to do that. Can you hear Loz? He's kissing his bells. I stopped that because of where the search was happening. If you're an Australian and you're thinking, oh, the thylacine might still exist in the deep, dark wilds of Tasmania, are you thinking of the location that he just showed? Look, I'll run it through again and just have a look. Because he's not talking about Franklin or Gordon River territory or the Tarkine.
16, for the pilot episode of Extinct or Alive, we started our search in Tasmania. Tasmania, the last known location of the thylacine to ever exist. That's right, I finally had the funds and the means to go on this expedition that I thought could change the world. When we first went down this road of looking for extinct creatures, it was sort of a tinfoil hat thing, right? I would tell other scientists and people in the academic community, I believe that some of these animals that have been declared extinct could still be out there. And it was like I was Percy Fitzpatrick in the Lost City of Z, standing up there talking about finding El Dorado, and everybody going, "You're crazy, you're a lunatic." But there was just so much information, and there was just so many eyewitness reports, especially when it came to the thylacine. And just like any...
I got to stop there. That's a well-known documentary technique that I've started to notice. Those clippings were photocopies of really, really old newspaper articles. And he's saying there's loads of eyewitness reports and lots of evidence. And some of that stuff is 50 years or more old. But putting them on a board with photocopying newspaper cutouts and cutting them out and pinning them on a board makes them seem contemporaneous. Anyway, I digress. Feel free to jump in, because this is actually thylacine still alive? Yes or no? Let's start there. Thylacine still alive? Yes or no? Come on, Riot Squad. Don't let me down.
Novice young explorer whose dreams are bigger than the reality. You thought you're going to start with the big one. You're going to find this, uncover it all, and change the world of natural history as we know it. And while there were dozens of very capable trackers and people who had gone out looking for it, just like everybody, you feel like if you can just have your shot, if you can just take your crack at it, maybe you'll be the one to get lucky. And that was what made me have this burning desire to get to Tasmania and actually find the thing. Let me tell you a little bit about what the thylacine is. The thylacine was the apex predator of Tasmania until the early 1800s when European settlers arrived. They quickly labeled the thylacine as a livestock killer and a nuisance to farmers, despite evidence that feral dogs and mismanagement were actually responsible for this. This labeling the thylacine as a livestock killer and a pest ultimately resulted in the Tasmanian government introducing £1 bounties for the heads of adult thylacine. And
I'll just butt in too. If you're looking for bird stuff, the reason I'm playing this today instead of some bird stuff is because it sort of runs alongside the discussion that we had about the paradise parrot, but also that thing that I often go on about reanimating extinct animals and how you can get a lot of attention for some things. But as we get through this more and more, there are more things that I've looked up and we'll look at afterwards. So just keep going. And yes, thylacine still exists, yes or no?
And 10 shillings per joey, which is a baby marsupial. Estimates from the time suggest that approximately 3,500 thylacine were killed by humans.
Hey Naomi, you could have just said no and saved all that typing energy.
And that Tasmania is widely regarded as the last stronghold for the thylacine, and with many parts of the state inaccessible to humans, the animal could still be hiding out there somewhere, or at least that's what I thought. And just by happenstance, by coincidence, and a bit of luck as I saw it, major wildfires broke out in Tasmania. Wildfires that actually threatened to shut down the expedition altogether.
Oh. For those of you in Australia, just think how absurd this is. This guy's sitting on the other side of the world, and there's some wildfires breaking out in Tasmania. I'm going to just bring this back. Listen to how he frames this. And if you're an Australian who lives in a bushfire-prone region, just listen to how insane this is. Well, I believe this is just lunacy, and it's the kind of stuff that gets peddled for an audience that has just no clue. He's on the other side of the world. Listen to this.
Hiding out there somewhere, or at least that's what I thought. And just by happenstance, by coincidence, and a bit of luck as I saw it, major wildfires broke out in Tasmania. Wildfires that actually threatened to shut down the expedition altogether. But while I was getting phone calls from insurance people and the network going, "You can't go, you're going to burn to a crisp," I started to look at a map. And as I looked at a map, I realized that these fires were encroaching down a series of mountainous terrain that, if we planned appropriately, would actually allow the fires to come up over the mountainous ridges and through the valley to create a funnel effect, therefore pushing all the wildlife into a very...
Whoever would have thought that fire science was so easy? Fair income. This is what got me... Yeah, even Loz thinks it's ridiculous. This is what got me thinking... What's going on with this dude? Anyway, let's go. He's going to fly from the other side of the world because there's wildfires that are going to funnel all the wildlife down a valley in some kind of controlled manner.
Very narrow corridor, which of course means it takes a giant piece of habitat and funnels all of the animals, thylacine and their prey included, into one distinct area that I can target my search efforts. To me, this was genius. I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to see if there's a thylacine.
To me, this was genius. Folks, can we locate the genius in the room?
This large transient marsupial carnivore will have no choice but to go down this valley. And if we're smart, we stay out of the fire's way, but get in the fire's path. And we place our cameras, our traps, our scent trails, and everything else in the heart of this.
I mean, I got to say, is this guy a fucking lunatic? If we're smart, what did he say exactly? And in on foot. What did he say exactly? If we're smart and we stay out of the fire's way.
But to go down this valley, and if we're smart, we stay out of the fire's way, but get in the fire's path, and we place our cameras, our traps.
We get out of the fire's way, but we stay in the fire's path. This is kooky, right?
Our scent trails and everything else in the heart of this valley, then any thylacine, along with all of the other animals that decide to walk through this valley, is surely going to be ours. So I partnered with Nick Mooney, a very respected biologist and at one time Tasmania Parks and Wildlife Service officer. Now, Nick has a very interesting story. When it comes to people that have sightings of Bigfoots and Loch Ness monsters, you get the big bearded Bubba backwoods guys and the guys that clearly drink too many, Budweisers on the weekend or maybe have dabbled in the odd drugs. Nick is not that guy. In fact, he's the polar opposite. So his story comes to us.
What did he say? People who, I'll paraphrase. If you say you've seen Bigfoot or the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster, people might think that you have been dabbling in the odd drug. And I'll draw your attention again to what is behind him when he goes to the front shot. Oh.
Us from a place of not wanting to be labeled one of these toothless tinfoil hat guys. He was out on a survey.
I'm a pisshead.
Completely believing that the thylacine had been eradicated from the planet. And as he tells the story, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, he was utterly shocked as he came out of his tent and looked and saw not one, but 2 thylacine clear as day. Now again, Nick is a biologist. He knows every single species of animal that lives in Tasmania. He's not somebody who's got a case of mistaken identity, who's got a case of shadow lurking, which is where you see something in the shadows and turn it into something in your mind. This is a scientist who did not even want to tell this story for fear of being labeled a whack job. So when Nick actually had this sighting, he held on to this information, going through a mental struggle with himself as to whether or not to announce it to the world for I think over a year, if I remember correctly, before finally one day he put his foot down and said, listen, I've seen thylacine. They are still out here. No BS. And when somebody as well respected as Nick Mooney says this, who is an actual biologist, you have to take that very seriously. So of course,
folks, I got to give Nick Mooney props for the hat.
Put his foot down and said, listen, I've seen thylacine. They are still out here. No BS. And when somebody as well respected as Nick Mooney says this, who is an actual biologist, you have to take that very seriously. So of course, in partnering with Nick Mooney, we went back to that general area, went to tell his story, and put in that survey in addition to the fire. So we checked all the boxes, and it just seemed like everything was going to line up to find a thylacine. So here we are camped in this beautiful valley in Tasmania, and I was absolutely...
Sorry. I feel like we're about to start watching an episode of Alone.
Addition to the fire. So we checked all the boxes, and it just seemed like everything was going to line up to find a thylacine. So here we are camped in this beautiful valley in Tasmania, and I was absolutely blown away by the abundance of animals.
Those of you with a horticultural bent, let's just have a look too at the real wilds of Tasmania, and have a look at the
survey in addition to the fire. So we checked all the boxes, and it just seemed like everything was going to line up to find a thylacine. So here we are camped in this beautiful valley in Tasmania, and I was absolutely blown away by the abundance of animals. I mean, it was crazy. I'd take my thermal binoculars at night and stand up on a small hill and look out over the valley, and it looked like the plains of Africa. But instead of having wildebeest and zebra everywhere, it was filled with marsupials, wombats, wallabies, quolls, all kinds of incredible creatures. And we did everything we could. I dragged dead wallabies to create scent traps, and I put out camera traps, and I made blinds to hide in, and I tried.
I wonder if he tied up any of those
thylacine, and we were able
camera
to
traps
see the
to
quoll,
those,
which at the time was believed to be the thylacine
pine trees, the grove of pine trees.
Now we know it's the Dunnart, and we were able to get the Tasmanian devil on camera, which what an unbelievably cool creature that is. But sadly, even in the face of the fire, in the face of all these animals trotting by us down this funneling, in the face of having Nick Mooney stand right beside me and work on this expedition, we found no concrete evidence of a thylacine. We did at the end find what looked like it could have been an old den. There was some bones in there. It really looked like a predator had dragged a carcass into that, but it was old. There was nothing definitive. There was no DNA to work off of. And while it was an incredibly cool expedition, this somewhat put the nail in the coffin for me as far as believing that the thylacine could still be in Tasmania. But still having this gut feeling, which I know is not scientific, but it's something that served me well my whole life, that the thylacine was still out there, I need to mount the next expedition. Fortunately,
I'm sorry, I just want to pull this back too. So we saw the shots with farmland and pine trees, but then we go have a look at how we do this. Just some of the tricks.
Definitive, there was no DNA to work off of, and while it was an incredibly cool expedition, this somewhat put the nail in the coffin for me as far as believing that the thylacine could still be in Tasmania.
Oh, look, all of a sudden we're in the wilderness.
I know it's not scientific, but it's something that served me well my whole life, that the thylacine was still out there. I need to mount the next expedition. Fortunately, the James Cook University, a very well-accredited institution...
Okay. We're going to have a look at some of this James Cook University stuff at the end of this, all right? So, anyway, let's go on. James Cook University, by the way, is based in Townsville and in Cairns.
Was also conducting a survey for the thylacine. So, I pooled my resources, I packed up the team, and we headed to Cape York, the northernmost point of the Australian mainland, where many eyewitnesses came forward stating they found evidence of something resembling the thylacine. So, in teaming up with the James Cook University...
Funnily enough, oh no, I was just going to say there hasn't been sightings up and down the eastern seaboard, but there are claims of sightings in East Gippsland. But any of the other wild places between East Gippsland and Cape York? I don't know.
University, they were doing a study monitoring the abundance of prey animals in the region with the ancillary aim of searching for a thylacine. Now, it may seem ridiculous, but this sort of told me that there was more information than you might think is out there or that is publicly available. Because if a major accredited academic institution is putting in resources like 2,000 trail cameras, if I remember correctly, to look for the thylacine, you better believe that there's some sort of information that has led them to think that there's at least a remote possibility that this animal could be there. And with more than 40% of Australia remaining unexplored, there's bound to be some places where the thylacine could still roam undetected, or at least that's what I thought. That place for me...
Okay. 40% of Australia remains unexplored. Does that mean we don't have maps for 40% of Australia? I don't know. That seems like one of those classic rubbery figures. Anyway, let's go on.
Was Cape York. So when we hit the ground in Cairns, Australia, and met up with the
Exactly,
researchers at the
Martin.
university,
Exactly.
we started to dig into what could this piece of information be. Well, allegedly, this broad survey was sparked by a sighting by a credible tour guide in the peninsula. Not just any tour guide, but again, just like with Nick Mooney, somebody who had been doing this for years, who was trusted and had a reputation, and again, didn't really want...
But not anybody who might have a financial interest in people going off on some wild goose chase to come and find the Tasmanian tiger. There would be no reason a tour guide might want to stoke that kind of thing, would there? All right, keep the comments coming in. Martin, I know someone reasonably well, or I used to, who had told me that on 5 or 6 occasions they've seen the Gippsland black panther.
I want to share the information, which makes you feel
More on that later.
far more like it's credible than when somebody's spouting nonsense on the internet. So we talked with this tour guide, and he told me that he had seen a thylacine. No, wait a minute. He didn't actually tell me he'd seen a thylacine. Not one, anyway. Not even 2. He said he saw 4 animals.
1, 2.
Let's come back here.
He told me that he had seen a thylacine. No, wait a minute. He didn't actually tell me he'd seen a thylacine. Not one, anyway. Not even 2. He said he saw 4 animals.
1, 2, 3, 4 sets of red eye.
Bright red.
Bright red.
And apparently, they
I saw the red eyes. I saw the red eyes reflected in my spotlight.
He even played with his tracking dog. So he would head up into this Cape York area, this super remote area, 500 miles from Cairns, and up there with his tracking dog, he'd go out, and this one time, at the crack of dawn, if I remember correctly, he had 4 thylacine running around playing with his dog. So this was like, holy crap, like this has to be it, right? This is a guy who knows what he's talking about. And as he told me, this was not at dusk, this was not way off in the distance. This was 50 yards from him watching these animals all play together as he fumbled to try and get a camera out of his tent. And so he was convinced thylacine.
I want to do the Maxwell Smart voice. The old fumbled as he tried to get a camera out of his tent routine.
Were in the remote parts of the Cape York Peninsula. So with this information in hand, we traveled to the area 500 miles from Cairns and the James Cook University to where the tour guide said he had seen these 4 animals. Now, when you get to an area like this, the first thing you have to do is converse with the local people in the community to see if by chance they had had any more recent sightings. So we went to an Aboriginal community, and there, in sitting down with the elders, they told us about the legend of an animal they called the moon tiger. Now, when they explained what the moon tiger was, they made it very, very clear that it was a large dog with stripes on its back. It wasn't a dingo. It was all the things that checked the boxes of a thylacine.
Oh,
However,
there's one now.
in that community, it had been quite a while since anybody had actually seen one. Regardless, we were in the right area, and so we decided to put our cameras out. We put cameras everywhere, all over the region. What we discovered was actually kind of sadly shocking. While we found some very cool native wildlife, like big pythons and things like that, we saw a ton of large mice that have been introduced, wild pigs, which of course are invasive and a problem, and the big killer, dingoes. And when I say the big killer, what I mean by that is historically, we know that where there are dingoes, there would not be thylacine. And the reason being, dingoes were actually brought to mainland Australia by colonizing people, by Aboriginal people some 4,000 years ago. And the dingoes were capable of out-competing the thylacine. Because dingoes evolved from more traditional mammals and not marsupials, they were actually better predators and better suited to be carnivores in mainland Australia. And thus, they outcompete the thylacine for space, for resources, for habitat, for den sites, and everything else, and likely they'd actually kill the thylacine. So this is the reason that 4,000 years ago, the thylacine went extinct from mainland Australia, because people brought in the dingo. A lot of people think dingoes are native to Australia. They're not. They were actually brought there 4,000 years ago by people as sort of like village dogs. Anyway, Australia was inconclusive, to say the least. Finding those dingoes in such a remote area made us feel like the chances of finding a thylacine were next to zero. So now that I've struck out in both Tasmania and Australia, and the fact that I still sincerely believe that the thylacine is extant, even if it's in tiny remote populations, I have to conduct the most difficult survey of my life in the most remote, wild, rugged, and dangerous place in the world, Papua New Guinea. But I didn't have the intel. Papua New Guinea is...
So, I mean, that leap without any kind of explanation. Okay, we haven't found it in Tasmania with the expert. We haven't found it in North Queensland with the tour guide expert and the university. Therefore, I must go to Papua New Guinea. Anyway, let's keep going. I love that leap with no kind of logical weaving of the thread.
It's a crazy remote place. There's not a lot of communications coming in and out of there. There's a lot of very small tribal villages that are not in communication with the outside world. And so I needed to start gathering this information. At the same time, I also needed the resources. So we were leaning into Animal Planet and Extinct or Alive franchise and hoping that they were going to fund the next expedition. And no matter what, I still have and had this gut feeling that the thylacine could still be out there. I will admit that at the time, it had really started to hurt my hope, right? When you go to Tasmania and you put in 200-300 miles on foot, and then you go to Australia and you put in another 1,000 miles or so by vehicle and on foot, and you find nothing, it really does start to...
Do we reckon this guy walked 200 or 300 miles in Tasmania and then walked 200 or 300 miles up to 1,000 miles on foot in Cape York? Fuck off.
Give you a kick in the nuts as to whether or not you believe something could be out there. But the gut feeling, that little nagging instinct that I still have that the animal could still be there, even if functionally extinct, kept fueling me. Well, sadly, as I'm sure many of you know, Extinct or Alive got canned. Yep, COVID hit, and while we had a whole season 3 planned, all travel got shut down.
He's already done 2 seasons. He's already been funded for 2 seasons of a show looking for the Tasmanian tiger. Holy moly.
Budgets got reworked, the world went into chaos. Basically, all the executives that I'd worked with at Animal Planet got fired. And of course, all of the money at Animal Planet dried up because the network sort of doesn't exist any longer. And so we were really not in a spot to conduct a survey to go to Papua New Guinea. But I didn't care, and I still don't care, because I was going to pool the resources myself, pay out of my own pocket with the little bit of money I had if it meant that I could find the thylacine and change the course of natural history as we know it. But I still needed this information. So at that point in time, I thought the thylacine was in Papua New Guinea, not Western Papua, and I'll explain what happened. While digging into this and talking with people at the University of New Guinea, I believe it's called, the University in Port Moresby, I was starting to collect reports. There were historical reports, we were looking into range maps, and we were starting to gather intel. Now, at this point in time, I wasn't getting very far, but I did, and this was my first real clue, I did meet a guy who was heading...
Okay, this is where it gets really good, right? And bear in mind, you need to understand what Papua New Guinea is and West Papua. So let's...
to Western Papua, not Papua New Guinea, to go climb this big mountain. And I won't name the mountain because I don't want to give away the area on this one. But he was going to climb this big mountain in Western Papua. And it was a big, massively expensive, difficult expedition, especially during the height of COVID, to get there and climb this mountain. And him and his 2 friends were going, and they invited me to go. I, of course, couldn't go at the time. It was the height of COVID. And so I said, just do me a favor. Conduct a test for me to see if anybody has ever seen a thylacine. And he's like, well, how do I conduct a test? I just asked them, right? So I devised this thing that I think is pretty clever. Here's what I did. I printed out 10 different photos, 5 of which...
Okay, this is the scientific method, right? I mean, just wait for it. This is brilliant.
Which were native to Papua New Guinea and known. There was a tree kangaroo, there was a wallaby, there was a saltwater...
Papua New Guinea, remember? Papua New Guinea.
Crocodile, I can't even remember what else, but I printed out photos of known native animals to the area. Then I printed out 4 species of animal that were not known to Papua New Guinea, but could be confused for animals in other parts of the world, such as an American crocodile, a large gray kangaroo from mainland Australia, and a few other creatures like that. And then the 10th photograph...
Like a blue whale. And a giraffe.
was that of a thylacine. Now, these were all black and white. They all matched in style, and they all looked similar. And I said to my buddy that was going to climb the mountain, I said, take these 10 photos.
Hang on. I missed this last time. Got to go with this. Listen to his language.
Of a thylacine. Now, these were all black and white. They all matched in style, and they all looked similar. And I said to my buddy that was...
They all look similar. There's a cassowary there. There's a hornbill. Fuck me.
going to climb the mountain. I said, take these 10 photos. And when you're there with the guides, when you're sitting around at night, just put all the photos out and ask them which animals they've seen on their expeditions climbing the mountain and in this incredibly remote part of Western Papua, and which animals haven't they. And get this is where it gets really interesting. Because this was a blind study where there was no incentive for anybody to lie or tell anything, 6 photos the guys said they'd seen. They'd seen saltwater crocodiles, they'd seen tree kangaroos, they'd seen wallabies, whatever the other animals were, I don't even remember. And more than half the guides, I think there were 6 guides, 4 of which all said, I've seen this one, the thylacine. None of them, not one of them, pointed to the wrong animals and said, I've seen this. So these guys knew their shit. They knew their animals in the region and said, no, we don't have these 4, but we do have these 6. And then he was digging deeper, as I asked my buddy to do. And they said, yeah,
I wonder if they pointed out the cassowary.
we see these all the time, referring to crocodiles, and yeah, we see these, pretty regularly, the tree kangaroos, but these guys right here, the striped dogs, as they called them, we only see them very, very occasionally, right? And, and one of them, I forgot to mention this part of the story, this is important, was dingoes, and none of them had ever seen dingoes. So this was a really good sign, right? Because dingoes weren't there to outcompete the thylacine. So none of them had seen dingoes, but 4 of the 6 had said that they had at some point over the years seen a thylacine. So now my head's spinning. Now I've started to target in on an area, specifically at the...
His head's spinning. Linda Blair style. Yeah, good on you, Loz.
Base of this mountain that would be impenetrable to dingoes, too difficult for dingoes to colonize this area, that could potentially have these striped dogs, these thylacines. So I've got this information, it's 2020, 2021, all these other little reports are starting to trickle in, a villager here, a climbing guide here, somebody's seen an adult, somebody's seen a cub, thylacine attacking livestock in Iranjaya, all these various little pieces of information, but they're still so scattered and over such a large area.
And he just did it again. I'll come to it in the end. But, I mean, those beautiful, fair income, the copyright-free vision that he's using. This is the guy who's gone on the expedition. He's gone on the expedition.
It's 2020, 2021. All these other little
Where he
reports
couldn't
are
go,
starting to trickle in. A villager here, a climbing guide here. Somebody's seen an adult. Somebody's seen a cub.
Naomi, did you see? How did he do the generation of this image? Not this one.
Villager here, a climbing guide here. Somebody's seen an adult.
Oh, a lion and a
cub,
and a thylacine.
thylacine attacking lion.
There we go. There's the highlands of New Guinea livestock that may have been taken by the striped dog.
Villager here, a climbing guide here. Somebody's seen an adult, somebody's seen a cub, thylacine attacking livestock in Iranjaya.
Endorse it.
All these various little pieces of information, but they're still so scattered and over such a large area. So I was like, how do I narrow this in? So this is where this piece of information comes in, guys, and this is really something that's it's pretty next level. And I'm choosing how I share this information, because if it gets out in the wrong way, it could be dire to the thylacine. So let me explain. I got in touch with a woman named Rose, who was working at the University of Port Moresby on the relatively recently rediscovered Papuan singing dogs. Now, singing dogs are a highland dog that we thought basically didn't exist or were lost to science, and some 5 or 6 years ago, they were rediscovered. And this was a big deal. We're talking about packs of highly vocal, large carnivorous dogs. And so if you think that, you know, it was hard to find them in Papua, imagine how hard it would be to find a small, quiet marsupial canine that doesn't make a lot of sound, that's very reclusive, like the thylacine. So I get in touch with Rose. I'm talking about singing dogs. It's really interesting. I'm getting all this information on where she found them and what's going on. I basically asked her to conduct the same test, the same surveys that I did with my buddy who was the climber. And I said, take these photos, try it this way, blah, blah, blah. And Rose was like, I got it. I know what to do. She comes from a scientific background. She totally understood. And so Rose would head out into these villages looking for purebred singing dogs to help work on their genetics and learn about them. And she'd show all these photos, and she was finding singing dogs sort of all over the place, which was great because the singing dogs were oftentimes actually hybridizing with the local village dogs that they were using for hunting. Now, Rose would venture into these villages, she'd start talking to people, and it was really tough because there's no cell phone service anywhere there. So Rose would head out for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, and I wouldn't hear from her for that whole time. Then she'd come back and be like, nope, nothing, nope, nothing. Then, one day, I get an email out of the blue from Rose where she tells me there's a man in a village who owns a striped dog. Well, I'm freaking out, right? I'm on the edge of my seat. These striped dogs are a thing that villagers and villagers have talked about as though they're around regularly. It's nothing unusual. And the prospect of a thylacine sighting was just unbelievably tantalizing. So I asked Rose, what can we do? Can I pay for you to go there, try and vet this, go and see the striped dog, take your phone, get a photo, all of that? And she says, no problem, no problem. Again, this was during the height of COVID. So it was incredibly difficult to facilitate, to even get anywhere, to get a plane. There were no planes in there, blah, blah, blah. But basically, I managed to help support Rose to get to this village. And I was on the edge of my seat for a month because she disappeared from the face of the earth because there's no cell phone service anywhere. And she gets there. This guy's telling Rose he found 2 pups of striped dogs in a hollowed out log, which is the preferred den site, by the way, of the thylacine. He took the 2 pups back to the village. One of them died almost immediately, and the second one he raised in his home. He said it was striped.
So if you happen to find the pups of an extinct animal, and it's in its natural lair, in its den, you take them home. You just take them home.
It had a different back legs, it ran differently, it literally checked all of the characteristics of a thylacine. But, sadly, by the time Rose got there, one of the other village dogs had killed it. Now keep in mind, this is not like living in West Hollywood where we pamper our little pooches. These are remote villages where dogs are used as tools, hunting tools. And if a dog can't cut it, sadly, it's get.
But, hey, this guy's a biologist, right? He's a world-renowned, respected biologist. So we have the striped dog. We found 2. One of them has died. It's taken back. Rose, who is doing a... actually, let me see. What is Rose? I think Rose is doing a... where is it? I've got... Rose is a PhD candidate at the University of Papua New Guinea. Okay. We're going to look at that again in a minute. But there are... one has died. We have a body, right? Rose is a PhD candidate biologist. This guy is world-renowned biologist. I'll set the scene.
Killed by other dogs. Also, this is where the story gets so disheartening. Also, after the striped dog had been killed by another village dog, they decided to eat it. So they ate the striped dog, which potentially was a thylacine. They cooked it up and discarded the bones. Well, I said to Rose, please tell me you found some of the bones. Well, sure enough, she found the bones. They were charred. They were super gnarly looking. They were all practically destroyed and not distinguishable of anything at all, except for one photo. That's right, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Rose sent me a photo of a charred, broken, gnarly-looking lower jaw that perfectly matches the look of a thylacine jaw. So they ate the striped dog, which potentially was a thylacine. They cooked it up and discarded the bones. Well, I said to Rose, please tell me you found some of the bones. Well, sure enough, she found the bones. They were charred, they were super gnarly looking, they were all practically destroyed and not distinguishable of anything at all, except for one photo. That's right, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Rose sent me a photo of a charred, broken, gnarly looking lower jaw that perfectly matches the look of a thylacine jaw. Now, sadly, Rose didn't keep the jaw, she left it there. I just have this one photo. There's no way to tell for sure that it was a thylacine, but the fact that in 2021, I believe it was at this point, Rose got a photograph of what clearly looks like a thylacine jaw and a first-hand
The evidence is so secret. The evidence is so secret.
The fact that in 2021, I believe it was at this point, Rose got a photograph of what clearly...
The actual picture is being safeguarded by a variety of trusted experts at this time. It's too secret for biologists to exchange with each other from Papua New Guinea. But an expedition by a bloke who was going to go and climb a mountain in West Papua. Holy moly, this is conclusive evidence.
Looks like a thylacine jaw, and a first-hand report, not a second or third-hand report, but a first-hand report from a man who says he found a thylacine and raised it to semi-adulthood before it was killed. It just lights this fire in...
And the guy never took a photo of it. I mean, they do have digital cameras and stuff. Little kids draw drawings. A contemporaneous account would have been good.
My belly and under my bones that I cannot explain. Now, sadly, in order to do this expedition right, I have to raise close to $5 million. We need helicopters. We have to go to this incredibly remote area. By the way, this area that Rose went to is the same area that my buddy went and climbed the mountain. So it's in this very unique valley that dingoes cannot get to because it's so impenetrable by the geography of it. So you need major funds to get in there. I want to put out something like 2,000 camera traps and survey them for 3 months. So I won't say where this is for obvious reasons of trying to protect the animal and the fact that if it's still alive, it will still be alive in a year or two when I'm able to finally pool all the resources together. But this is my shining hope. This is my jewel in the sky of the thylacine could still be out there, could still be extant, even if it's in a tiny remote population. So I will, in my lifetime, mount an expedition to this very remote area in Western Papua to look for the thylacine, but I'm not doing it half-assed. I'm not doing it with 10 trail cameras and a camera guy. I'm going with a big crew with thousands of cameras, and I'm spending 3 or 4 months there until we can definitively answer whether or not the thylacine is still out there in this valley, or if I've just been sent on a crazy wild goose chase. What do you guys think? Do you think the thylacine
I think you're a fucking grifter and a tosser. That's what I think.
could still be alive? Where do you think it could still be? Let me know. Like and subscribe. Hit that button. You know, all that corny crap. But just do it and tell me what you think, because I'd love to know if you think it's worth me getting out there and looking for the thylacine.
Holy fuck. So, all right. But that's not the end of the story. All right. Now, Naomi, you did say here, where is it? You made the point, isn't Rose a wonderful biologist? Okay, we've only got what he has said about the conversations with Rose, but, okay, this is the studies of New Guinea Papua singing dogs, okay? And the study is to track the health, genetics and behaviours of New Guinea singing dogs. And they're looking to identify the health trends of that population. So they're also looking at doing MRIs of their brains to study what influences and what is going on in the nervous system, no doubt, with howling and behaviour. So, anyway, so this has been going on since 2016, and the biologist is Rose Singadan, a PhD candidate at the University of New Guinea. Rose, a biologist, has been an admirer of singers, or Papua New Guinea singing dogs, for 2 decades. The society, and that is, let's read out exactly what the society is. We'll go back to their homepage in a minute. The society supplied equipment including a GPS handheld device, digital cameras, trail cameras. So digital cameras, they had cameras, trail cameras, special DNA swabs, blah. Also grants. Despite many setbacks, Rose and her assistants have scouted one location recorded to have recent sightings of wild dogs. Okay, so there's wild dogs up there. Started discussions with all the people in a very remote mountain village about searching for singers on their land. All land in PNG is owned by the tribe that has traditional claims to it. Okay, so I am not doing this to cast any doubts on the work that Rose has been doing. Remember, we have no first-hand idea of what Rose was saying. But remember what this dude was saying, Papua New Guinea. But the guy's going to climb a mountain in West Papua, right? West Papua is a different bloody country. It's in Indonesia. Rose is working in Papua New Guinea, right? I mean, this is just, it's maddening. So, but of course, this is all being made for an audience which basically couldn't pick out Washington, D.C. versus Washington State in most cases. We got the obligatory photo of the big scary snake, which you've got to get if you're doing this kind of documentary, and I use that term loosely. But yeah, let's go back to Rose and the New Guinea Singing Dog Conservation Society. I'm just going to see if there's anything here. We'll have a look at the projects. Oh, they haven't got to this about page. Okay, so the Papua New Guinea Singing Dogs, to promote the health and well-being of the New Guinea singing dogs through public and scientific awareness, and advance their conservation in cooperation with the people in Papua New Guinea. Now, didn't he say something about they thought the singing dogs were extinct at some stage? Anyway, we'll just see. Okay, no, I don't think there's... Let's have a look at the history. We'll just see if there's anything about thylacines or anything here. The New Guinea singing dog was initially described as a distinct species, and they were bought. The first pair was brought out of the Southern Highlands district of Papua New Guinea to Taronga Zoo in 1956. Of course, at that stage, Papua New Guinea was a protectorate or a colony. I think it was part of Queensland, wasn't it? Or was it administered from the ACT? I don't remember, but it wasn't an independent country. The New Guinea singing dog's precise taxonomic status and phylogenetic relationships are still facing some scientific controversy. However, the majority of canine and domestication scientists classify them as domestic dogs. Okay, so if they're domestic dogs, they're pretty much dingoes, right? It is accepted, here we go, that the New Guinea singing dog and the Australian dingo are the most primitive dogs brought to their islands by humans, thanks, Loz, at least 5,000 years ago. So, all right. So there's nothing here in the work of that Rose has done, and I can look up more that indicates that there is anything about the thylacine. But let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of the stuff about James Cook University. Agree. Yes. Okay. This is a media release from November 2021. James Cook University. Mystery creatures yet to be discovered. Never before seen species may be waiting to be found in the treetops of North Queensland's rainforests. So they're looking for new species. Half to 2/3 of insect species from rainforest canopies might well be undescribed species. So they're out there looking. Here we go. Professor Lawrence, who has written on the benefits of cryptozoology in unintentionally finding new animal species, helped to organise an expedition to Cape York to search for the supposedly extinct Tasmanian tiger thylacine in 2017. While the expedition was unsuccessful, more than 100,000 photos were analysed by the team, including a spine-tingling photograph of a dog-like creature. It was a really weird thing, but I could tell straight away it wasn't a thylacine. After staring at the photo for a bit, I think it was a dingo that must have stuck its head inside the carcass of a freshly killed animal and its head got all covered in blood. Then the dried blood turned into this black, weird face mask. As for whether or not the feared yowie could exist in North Queensland, Professor Lawrence said it was very unlikely. Okay, that was in 2017. That dude produced that video a few days ago. This is March 2017. The field survey, James Cook University scientists are preparing to launch a scientific search for the Tasmanian tiger on the Cape York Peninsula in far north Queensland. The field survey will be led by Dr. Sandra Abell, using more than 50 high-tech camera traps to survey prospective sites on the Cape. Co-investigator Professor Bill Lawrence said he had spoken at length to two people in North Queensland who have provided plausible and detailed descriptions of animals that could potentially be thylacines. One of those observers was a long-time employee of the Queensland National Parks Service, and the other was a frequent camper and outdoorsman. Okay. And so the frequent camper and outdoorsman must be the experienced tour guide, I believe, because all observations of putative thylacines to date have been at night, and in one case, 4 animals were observed at close range, about 20 feet away with a spotlight, you know, the red eyes. Okay. We have cross-checked the descriptions we received of eyeshine colour, body size and shape, animal behaviour and other attributes, and these are inconsistent with known attributes of other large-bodied species in North Queensland, such as dingoes, wild dogs or feral pigs. What were they? Okay. So they have to get the permits, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'll actually have a look at that tab in a sec. The survey will be conducted under the auspices of the Centre for Tropical Environment and Sustainability Science at James Cook University. This research is being conducted under its flagship project, Northern Development and Imperiled Biodiversity. Okay, let's keep going, because there's... this is the page of the Centre for Tropical Environment and Sustainability Science. Okay, so there's research and teaching. Is there anything on? I'm just looking to see if there's anything about thylacine. Okay, let's see what we can get. Live searching. (2017, 2021). Okay, so we've got the thing. It was a really weird thing, but it wasn't a thylacine. Okay, so nothing updated. Now this is University of Queensland. Is the thylacine really extinct? When was this written? When was this published? Let's have a look. Okay, so they've found, are they fossilised teeth? Yeah, fossilised teeth from a thylacine. I've not yet had an opportunity to fully analyse and date the teeth, but wouldn't it be amazing if they were from an animal post-dating 1936? Okay, when was that? I would love to know when that was published. It doesn't say. That's unusual, isn't it? No publication date. Okay, but I'm not seeing anyone advancing that the thylacine exists. Okay. Whole heap of stuff that's basically... Oh, here's one. We'll watch this. This is on Reddit. This should come through. And this is someone interviewing Bill Lawrence from James Cook University in 2017. I hadn't seen this before, so this will be new for us all.
Alright everyone, welcome along back to the channel today, and I've got a brand new video for you, and it's quite an interesting one. Now I wanted to talk beforehand to just give you a little bit of context of what this video is about. Obviously it's regarding the thylacine, but a few years ago a university in Australia, which was called the James Cook University, set out on an expedition to try and find the thylacine in mainland Australia, specifically the Cape York Peninsula, all the way up the top. This was obviously quite an exciting thing in the thylacine community, like rumbles going about, like could there be thylacine on mainland Australia hidden away in the Cape York Peninsula? And that got me interested, so I contacted the scientist, one of the scientists involved in this search for the thylacine up in that area. His name is Professor Bill Lawrence. He's an exceptional scientist, one of the most cited scientists on the entire planet. He's very, very reliable, very, very good at what he does. And I've managed to get him on the channel today to talk about the expedition to the Cape York Peninsula in search of the thylacine, how it came about, what happened, was there anything interesting in regards to the thylacine. So hopefully you enjoy this 15-minute chat with the man himself. He's a really good guy. Make sure to smash a like on this video as well, and drop a comment. Tell me what you think about what he says in the comment section down below. Enjoy. When I originally got in contact with you, it was about the search into far north Queensland, which was it 2017?
That sounds about right, yeah.
I suppose in the thylacine community, a lot of people heard about this and quite excited. But I suppose people never really heard an outcome. So should we start back at right at the start? How did this happen? How did it come about? What happened there?
If I remember the details right, I was doing a radio interview on the environment with the local person here, and he started telling me the story about the sightings of a thylacine, and it turned out that I've got my own little wild thylacines just about to join us here. So he had heard this, ostensibly credible sounding account from a national parks ranger who claimed that he'd seen a thylacine in the early 1980s, I think it was, a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was a really detailed account, and it was by someone that you would think would kind of know what they were doing. And then that radio broadcast was heard by was heard by a lot of people, but another person came forward and had also seen thylacines in the 1980s, or ostensibly seen a group of thylacines in the 1980s. So it's sort of, it was interesting to hear these accounts, credible observers, detailed descriptions of what these animals were supposed to look like, knowing that the odds were always long, that it was always going to be remote, that there was going to be a possibility of finding thylacines up on the Cape York Peninsula, which is where we were working. So that sort of triggered it. And then I had a colleague that was working on it, and we decided to use camera traps, which are a good method. And people are using these camera traps now and are finding, James, as you probably know, that they're just discovering all kinds of things. Jaguars coming into the backyard, they didn't even know that before, type of thing. And so that was the idea behind it. The other thing is that there's a number of mammal species and other wildlife species that are declining right now on the Cape York Peninsula region in northern Australia generally. And we were really interested to try to get up there and to have a look at some of these poorly explored areas and try to see what we could find of these rare species.
So how remote is far north Queensland, the Cape York Peninsula? How remote is that?
Well, you can get to Cairns fairly easily, which is where I live.
Yeah.
After that, you're going to need to get into a four-wheel drive vehicle, and you can fly up to some of the smaller communities, but you'd probably be four-wheel driving up there. That's what we did. We used a helicopter as well, and it's rough roads, rough terrain in a lot of places. Many places are not roaded at all, or really rough roads. And then the other thing is that when the wet season hits, a lot of those roads just turn into this muddy morass, and you really can't get in and out of there at all. So it's fairly remote.
So how big was the scale of this operation then? So how many cameras did you have? Were there like boots on the ground? What sort of scale are we talking about?
Pretty big operation, field campaign. My colleague, Dr. Sandra Abel, really coordinated a lot of this. One of the things that she did is she brought in Aboriginal rangers, park rangers, and who were very involved in this, which is a fantastic thing. And we were also able then to get permission to work on some native lands, indigenous lands, as part of this survey. And it involved, I know myself, I contributed about 100 camera traps to the campaign, and then there were some others that were used as well. At the end of the day, we got just to give you a sense of how big and how long, we ended up with about 100,000 photographs of wildlife.
Yeah.
Had to be looked at and identified and all that. But that gives you an idea of the scale.
I suppose that's fantastic just in general for research in wildlife. Was there anything that came up there that was quite exciting?
Well, I mean, we're still, my colleague is still in charge of those data, and we really do need to get those published. I think the headline result, which is we did not find a thylacine, of course, is something that we released immediately, but there's other information there. I mean, the other thing that we collated, James, was observations or, anecdotal observations from people, not just those two people that I mentioned, but all kinds of people. And we ended up with dozens and dozens, scores of observations and people claiming, in some cases, pretty convincing sounding claims that they had seen thylacines. I mean, it could have been in Western Australia, it could have been in Tasmania, it could have been in the Northern Territory. They were all over the place. And most of those, I would say, I could probably reject, just given the fact that the observations were made by inexperienced observers. And that's a really common pattern as you get inexperienced people who tend to think they see things that an more experienced field biologist would not necessarily think. That's common pattern. Yeah. Anyway, so it was so we got lots of interesting things that were and photos sent to us. I mean, perhaps the weirdest thing, James, was I got a photo of an animal that it kind of looked like a dingo, but its head was completely jet black, and I've never seen. It was just bizarre, and I couldn't imagine anything. Other things that we saw photos of, we said, "Oh, that's a tree kangaroo. Oh, that's a feral pig." We could kind of work out what they were, but this we couldn't. And we finally ended up concluding that it must have been a dingo that stuck its head inside of like a dead animal, and got it all bloody and everything.
Ugh.
And then that all just
gnarly.
Anyway, it was a weird looking thing. I'll tell you what.
I can imagine. Yeah.
The other thing.
Okay, I think that's as much as we need to see of that one. There's some in a lot of the conversations that I want to cover in a while. That channel is slagged off a lot by people accusing that cookie guy from using their footage and stuff. So anyway, we'll get back from there. Now, they mentioned Nick Mooney, right? Now, I think we need to get some first-hand stuff from Nick Mooney, which we can do now.
Well, there has been a sighting. I'm going to all the places you shouldn't today, but I'm going there. I'm not afraid. There's been a sighting, apparently, of a Tassie tiger, and there is footage to prove it. Nick Mooney is from the Tasmanian Wildlife and he's a biologist.
Okay, this is from a local ABC interview with Nick Mooney, and I'll let Nick speak for himself. But did you hear that preamble? We'll just pull that back a little bit. So we're talking about an animal that was known to exist in Tasmania and last seen in Tasmania, but was declared extinct in the 30s, right? But listen to what the radio host, I don't know if the host is a journalist, and indeed, do I know exactly who it was? No, there's on this website, on this YouTube channel, that they haven't actually said who it is. But
prove it. Nick Mooney is from the
sorry.
Apparently of a Tassie tiger, and there is footage to prove it. Nick Mooney is
Hang on.
in a sighting, apparently, of a Tassie tiger, and there is footage to prove it. Nick Mooney.
There is footage to prove it.
He is from the Tasmanian Wildlife and he's a biologist, and he joins you now. Morning, Nick.
Good morning, Priscilla.
Why?
Where's he from? Hang on. Where's he from?
Joins you now. Morning, Nick.
Good morning, Priscilla.
Why is it that it's always really grainy, distant footage that we...
Hang on.
The Tasmanian Wildlife and he's a biologist, and he joins footage to prove it. Nick Mooney is from the Tasmanian Wildlife and
He's from the Tasmanian Wildlife.
biologist, and he joins you now. Morning, Nick.
Good morning, Priscilla.
Why is it that it's always really grainy, distant footage that we have when we have these sightings? But do you believe there has been a sighting of a Tassie tiger?
Two or three questions in those two, actually. Why is it? I don't know. A lot of these cameras, like this one, is a what we call a trail camera. It's a camera set in the bush that's triggered by movement, and those cameras typically have low light qualities, which is very blurry pixelation, wide-angle lens, which distorts slightly, which makes interpreting stuff sometimes very difficult. But fair question. Also, these sightings or events tend to be incredibly brief, so no one's got time to fiddle with their camera. At the most, they get a snapshot from the hip, so to speak. Yes, this is not a sighting. This is a little bit of video. There was a sighting involved that's nothing to do with this picture.
Right.
It was by one of the men in another time and place. So they're different events. Yeah.
So you've seen this footage. What's your consensus, Nick?
Oh, I don't have a consensus actually. I can't identify the animal definitively. I think it is probably a spotted-tailed quoll, which is an animal that's related to a thylacine, but much smaller. But they have some characters in common. I've had a good look at the film. I haven't been in possession of a copy, so I can get it digitally checked out. So taking it at face value, there's a small chance it's a thylacine based on some physical characters and the fact that you can't actually tell exactly what it is.
Is there some kind of romantic notion to this? I mean, deep down,
that's an understatement. You can think romantic.
Based on what he just said, he thinks it was a spotted-tailed quoll, but it could be a thylacine based on the fact that there was something in the image and they don't know what it is. So next time you take a photo of a bird that you cannot identify, there is a chance that it's a paradise parrot.
It's probably interesting description too. You can probably thank Robert Blake and Rudyard Kipling for our fascination with the word tiger. I'm pretty sure if this wasn't called a Tasmanian tiger, if it was called an Aboriginal name like Corinna, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The fascination with tiger in the Western and most of the world, really, the romanticism involved is what keeps it going. So you got that exactly right.
And given that you're a biologist and you work in Tassie, do people want to discuss the Tassie tiger with you all the time?
No, I get.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe some Queensland radio host ringing me up to discuss it might give you that answer.
Kiss conversations and every turn of the supermarket and fuel station. Tasmania's got lots of people who know quite a bit about the bush, so it's a point of interest.
Okay. All right. Let's. All right. This one is. I'll come back to that one. Is this a Tasmanian tiger in 2021? This is again Wildlife with Cookie, and one of the comments here. I just want to read this out first. Will you fuck off stealing our copyrighted material and talk about seagulls or something like fish and chips? You have zero permission to make money from our material, you prat. Okay, now I am going to play this, and I might say I have no permission to use this, but you are allowed to discuss things which is put up and to criticise them and talk about them and analyse them. And this is what we will be doing. But this is the supposed evidence of the thylacine. I don't think we'll go for 8 minutes on this, but we will get a sense of this. And then I've got another one we want to check out. So here we go.
It's sort of fitting the right kind of shape.
Alright everyone, how are we all doing? Today we're bringing you the massively hyped pictures of thylacines from Tagoa. Now England time, as I am right now, is 3:15 in the afternoon. So it's a bit earlier than anticipated, but that is great news. If you want to get a comprehensive reminder of what's happened, you can check out video 1 here and Facebook as well.
We hope you enjoy our best ever evidence we have to date of thylacines still persisting in Tasmania in these modern times. We now wish to introduce to you our little baby we have decided should be called Hope, because that is what she represents, not only for her species, but all species here on Earth. Enjoy. So in actual fact, we've got 5 pictures to be looking at today. I'm going to post them on the screen now for 2 seconds each. If you want to pause, feel free to do so.
Okay. Can you see that? There's some eyes. Let's come back.
Want to pause, feel free to do so.
All right. That's one of the photos. That's the next photo. That's the next photo. That's the next photo. And there we are. That's the last one, I think.
So first off,
Okay, so I'm not going to keep playing cookie. Okay, there's something I can't play. Okay, this is something from the New York Times in 2023. So we'll just do a bit of a cruise around. New support for some extinct Tasmanian tiger sightings. So it's 2023. Depending on whom you ask, the Tasmanian tiger or thylacine has either been extinct for nearly a century or is just really good at hiding. Now, Barry Brook, Professor of Environmental Sustainability at University of Tasmania, says there's a good chance the thylacine may have persisted for a few decades longer. So not currently, but longer. He says there are pockets where the species could have maintained small populations. One of the problems with the thylacine and extinction in general is it's hard to prove something is truly gone. Australia's night parrot, for instance, was thought to be extinct for 140 years until its recent rediscovery. Now, this is a bit about Barry's study. We'll just have a quick read through this. Cryptozoologists, hikers, and even the occasional hunter or park ranger have reported thylacine sightings for decades after the animal's presumed extinction in Tasmania, driving speculation about whether 1936 was the final death knell of the species, or did it hang on, Dr. Brooks said. He and his colleagues decided to take a statistical approach. Okay. Combining all the reports they could gather and rating them in terms of reliability and improve their understanding of when and where the thylacine might have gone extinct. For a study published last month in the journal Science of the Total Environment, Dr. Brooks' team studied 1,237 Tasmanian tiger reports from 1910 onward. It classified these reports in terms of credibility. More than half of the reports came from the general public. The team also found spikes of sightings that were probably linked to high-profile thylacine news in Australia, what Dr. Brooks' team called recency bias. Some reports between 1910 and 1937 were confirmed captures or kills, with the last fully wild photograph kill occurring in 1930. Dr. Brooks' teams considered another 4 reports of kills and captures or releases from 1933 to 1933 to 1937 as legitimate. For the following 8 decades, 26 deaths and 16 captures were reported but not verified, as were 271 reports made by people that Dr. Brooks' teams considered experts, former trappers, outdoorsmen, scientists or officials. These types of high-quality reports from experts peaked in the 1930s and started to fall in the 1940s. People who had definitely trapped or seen thylacines before the 1930s and who presumably knew what they were looking at had either died or retired by the 1970s. That whole pool of expertise kind of dries up by the 1970s, Dr. Brooks says. The best quality report after that, he said, came from a park officer who saw one in 1982. A model based on all these reports reveals Tasmanian tigers likely went extinct between the 1940s and 1970s, with a smaller chance they persisted in remote areas until the 1980s or even early 2000s. Brandon Holmes, an independent conservationist and editor of the recent book Thylacine, The History, Ecology and Loss of the Tasmanian Tiger, and who was not involved in Dr. Brooks' study, called the research a laudable attempt to find out when and where the thylacine likely went extinct, using a large data set of reports. The last members of a species are invariably almost never seen by humans, particularly on an island as large and sparsely populated as Tasmania, Mr. Holmes said in an email. But he noted that not everyone may agree with the quality rating of some of the reports the team analysed. Nick Mooney, who studied Tasmanian wildlife for decades and who also wasn't involved in Dr. Brooks' study, put it another way. You have court cases without any witnesses, just scraps of reports written down by other people. Mr. Mooney has interviewed hundreds of people who reported thylacines. He found that most either misidentified the creature they saw, they lied, or were delusional, and that a psychological effect or modified memory might be to blame in some cases. At the same time, Mr. Mooney finds a 1982 report by a park officer relatively credible. I don't disagree with the authors, except to say their conclusions are somewhat optimistic, considering the material used. Dr. Brooks' analysis found there to be a very small chance that the thylacine is still around today. For that possibility, Mr. Mooney said that even if Tasmanian tigers did persist past 1936, the likelihood of their still being around shrinks all the time. Someone should have found one by now, given the high level of roadkill in Tasmania and increasing use of trail cameras in more remote parts. Dr. Brook agrees that we're unlikely to discover surviving thylacines. The hope for some people is that thylacine is a Lazarus species that will rise from its tomb and walk again, but that unfortunately hasn't happened. And we'll just show here too. I'm not bagging Nick Mooney. This is Nick does some tours with Inala, and you probably know I've got a very high regard for Inala. And what I wanted to sort of show is that even when you look at what Nick Mooney says and what he's written, he's not taking the same tack as the what's this dude's name? Forrest Galante. Martin says, I've been in some pretty heated debates about dingoes and domestic dogs interbreeding. Some experts, scientists claim it can't happen and all wild dogs in Australia are dingoes. I call it rubbish. Well, I don't know, but I've seen some animals that have been pointed out to me as dingoes that look an awful lot like some dogs. And one of my cousins actually had a dingo as a pet. And it behaved a lot like a dog, but it was nowhere near as domesticated as the dogs that I've known in households I've lived in. So I think there's a long distance between dingoes and dogs, but I think they're dogs, right? Whether they're interbreeding, I'm pretty sure that happens. But I am not a biologist, and I have no first-hand knowledge of that, and I have not researched it. So there we are. What are your thoughts, folks? Has any of this stuff made you think, gee, I saw it on YouTube, therefore I will believe it? It's a worry, isn't it? But let's have a look. I'll get about 30 views on my video, but this one has 410,055 views, and I'm guessing, how long is it? 25 minutes. He's made a pretty penny off that one video. I might just go to his channel and just have a look. How many of his videos are all this kind of bullshit? Let's have a look. 7 extinct animals that could come back. The 10 most dangerous insects in the world. Why I believe the Tasmanian tiger is still alive. Oh, we just looked at that. Looking for one of the world's rarest animals. Private tour of the world's largest aquariums. The top 10 deadliest snakes. Sharks go missing in an aquarium. Finding the rarest animal in the world. Surviving during the Ice Age. Hunting and eating the world's worst fish. Turning a domestic tiger into wild animal. I got hit by lightning. Oh, you'll like this one, Naomi. I think, how long is this one? This is only a short, isn't it? Let's get this one up. I'm going to, let's have a look at this one. It goes for, no, I won't have a look at it because it's not only a short. Anyway, sensationalism tends to work, hey? Okay, well, there we go. Folks, if you... what will I tell you? I might come back tomorrow. I might go down this rabbit hole a little bit further. I might look at some more, we rediscovered an extinct species, or we might even look at some of that more bonkers ancient aliens. And look, I'm really sorry that I didn't go bird today. But that video popped up in my feed, and I just had to look at it. Marion Waldorn. Hello, Marion. Thank you for the Facebook love. You must be new. Thanks for popping in. Usually we talk about birds on a Monday. We talk about urban birds. But as I was just explaining, I saw that ridiculous YouTube video about the thylacine. And apart from the fact that it was really sensationalist, here's the other thing. I mean, I think I did tell you. You see how he relied on the fact that people don't know enough? I mean, the market that he's looking at don't understand that Papua New Guinea is over here and West Papua is over here, and that the guy climbing the mountain was in Indonesia, that province of Indonesia, albeit disputed. There's an independence movement for West Papua, but currently it's not the same as Papua New Guinea. The source he cited, the biologist Rose, looking at the New Guinea singing dogs, she was in Papua New Guinea. The guy who was climbing the mountain was in Irian Jaya or West Papua. As Martin said, if there was a jawbone, surely even if you thought that it was, and of course the photos are being held in secret. Ooh, they're being protected, secret. Ooh, who the fuck by you, dickhead? Even if the dog had been whatever, whether it was a thylacine or whatever, and there were still some bones, wouldn't you still take them somewhere and attempt to get some DNA? Wouldn't if it was a jawbone and there were some teeth, which the photograph showed, couldn't you send them to some museum that holds thylacine bones and some teeth and have them compared? The whole thing is just smoke and mirrors, and it's really disappointing that someone who says they are a biologist pops that crap out. Really, really, really disappointing. So Martin also says about dingoes, just in relation to a dingo with a black head and other colours, including brindle, probably mistaken for something else. Look, I've seen a group of dingoes that included some that had brindle markings on them, and but as for their genetic purity, I don't know enough about it. I have asked a couple of times, asked Guy Ballard, who's done some studies on dingoes, to come onto the show, and I will do so again now that we have opened this can of worms. So after seeing all that compelling evidence and hearing, in their own words, Nick Mooney, and seeing, actually, let me, I'm just going to find the, I'm just going to try and find the, see if I can find that bit. Just trying to find the project that, is this the one? About with Rose. Where did I find it? That the New Guinea Singing Dog Conservation Society is doing a whole lot of genetic work too, by the way. Where is the... still looking for that. Sorry. Singer Spotlight. Sorry, now I forgot. I can't find the page that I was looking at with the bit about Rose. Oh, come on. Isn't this terrible? Oh, maybe it's just Genetic Diversity Project, is it? Where are we? No, forget it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Where are we? Rose. Where is it? I'll put that I'll just check Rose in Singadan in Google Scholar, right? Singadan. Sorry, folks. This is me looking, searching something online. Oh, is this? Okay, ResearchGate. This is something interesting. Now, I don't know if this is recent. ResearchGate. I'm not seeing any publications. But if I go to LinkedIn, is this current? Okay, this looks like the current. Let's. I'm not going to dox her. I'm not going to bring this up, but it looks like she's the coordinator of oil and gas unit at the Department of Environment and Conservation. Master's degree in Conservation Biology and Environment Resources Management from the University of Kent, specifically from the Durrell Institute of Conservation and Ecology. Spent a very rewarding year there to gain my master's degree. Currently in my second year of PhD study, 2019, by research at the University of Papua New Guinea. My topic is the ecology and behaviour of the New Guinea singing dog in the mountains of Papua New Guinea. I need funds and grants and sponsorships to collect samples, purchase equipment, etc. Right? Being the first and only female in the sciences at the University of Papua New Guinea to be carrying out a doctorate research in country. Life is tough with funds to complete this project successfully, but very, very interesting. No doubt it's very difficult to raise funds. So she's requesting and sort of kind of plea to anyone viewing my post to help me by directing my attention to possible resource websites or link me up with organisations that can fund or provide grants or sponsorships to assist me to find the very rare, elusive, evasive and mysterious wild dog that lives in the high altitude mountains of Papua New Guinea. Your assistance will help me find the rare canine who is currently believed to be descended directly from the Middle East Asian continent wolf and brought to New Guinea some 10,000 years to 15,000 years ago by our ancestors, the Melanesians, who migrated from Asia to New Guinea. They need protection and will be recognised as a canine from Papua New Guinea. To verify their status, I need samples to get them to laboratories in Australia for DNA analysis. If anyone assists me, you will get acknowledged, mentioned in my paper, and a small gift will be posted to you, and you will be part of this dog story. Thank you for your time on my post. That's on LinkedIn. That's the public post for Rose Singadan. Let me come back here. I didn't want to bring that page up in case it would be seen as doxing her, but Sounds like that's research that should be being done. Just goes to show there's only work in bloody the oil and gas exploratory field, isn't there? And I can't see that the work has been published yet. So try to remember to keep an eye out for that. Just see if I can find anything else. There's some stuff Rose has been acknowledged helping to find a new species of small green tree frog. She's referred to frequently in other people's work, so that's obviously I would think you really need to support each other in that kind of work. And Martin says the photos she showed of those dogs in New Guinea look very similar to the Japanese dog, especially the head, face, and ears. Look, to be honest, I didn't pay that much attention, but I think dogs, bearing in mind that there's domestic dogs and hunting dogs being used by people in New Guinea and Papua as well. There's lots of trade between islands and between tribes, and they might be swapping puppies, and I don't know, it just seems to me fairly logical that they would all be fairly closely related, would share common ancestors, and then, just like normal dog breeds get bred, that I think that's probably happening everywhere. So there we go. If you're new to the show, sorry that I haven't been speaking to bird experts. I'm enjoying these Mondays. It's not going to be too long until Holly's back. We've only got another month or so just to put up with me, and I'll still keep trying to find people to talk urban birds. I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again, because during the pandemic, I could always find people who were available because they weren't out doing field work and they weren't in classrooms teaching. Because during lockdown, a lot of that stuff wasn't going on. Now they're all madly catching up. Like Loz is, he's madly trying to destroy his toy up there. So yeah, it's a little bit more challenging for me to find people at this particular time slot at the moment, but we'll keep reaching out. Anything else you want to say? Let's put some music on while we just run down. Good on you, Loz. We'll put we put some daydreaming on. There we are. Let's just chill out while we contemplate the existence, continued existence in the flesh, living and breathing of the thylacine. I thought Nick Mooney made an interesting point that if every time someone mentioned the thylacine, they didn't put in brackets the Tasmanian tiger, we probably wouldn't be talking about it so much if it was had an indigenous name that wasn't that well known. Then no one would really be talking about it. But of course, it's always coming up because of the thoughts about reanimating these animals. Did anyone else think it was weird that the area of Tasmania that this dude decided to go and look wasn't southwest Tasmania? You know, in the really, 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 really wild places of Tasmania. And then that leap of logic. Oh, it's up it's up on Cape York Peninsula. Therefore, I'll go to New Guinea. Oh, wait, I can't go to New Guinea. I'll get someone who's climbing a mountain in Papua. But then I'll talk about some supposed wild dog and a bone in Papua New Guinea. They're not next door, buddy. Anyway, I'll probably get a copyright strike for playing his video. We'll see what happens if he watches this. And so that's what I want. I thought that Guy Forrest was a fool. Why on earth would he search there in Tassie? Yeah, I mean, wasn't that about in that area, general area of Cradle Mountain and Lake St. Clair? And what was the idea? I mean, you can tell he's trying to build, just the fact that they built that shelter the way that they did, and that they were kind of in farmland and there were pine trees. I don't know what Nick Mooney thought he was getting himself into there, but why weren't they just in a tent? Why were they, cosplaying it, Alone? Another series of Alone or Survival or some such stuff. I just don't... but that's where they're crafting the market for his YouTube audience. What did I say? There were bloody 400,000 views or something. I mean, he's already... he certainly made a month's wages just off that one video. But the livestock, that was stock footage of somewhere like in England, it's astounding at what passes as Naomi says the entire thing screamed clickbait, not real research. Yeah, I've got to say. And then I get quite depressed because, no, I don't get depressed. I just get concerned that, I can't even get to 1,000 followers, because when you talk to real people about real stuff, it's not what people want. People want to be fed bullshit. They really do. Let's see. Let's play acoustic cinematic. I don't know if this is any good. I don't want this one. Yeah. So. Anyway, did you enjoy that? Oh, Loz, that was a projectile. Lucky you didn't get me, buddy. I put a really tall perch up with a toy halfway down it, but he can get up nice and high, almost as high as the roof on a perch now, and he's really enjoying it. Now he's attacking this toy that I got him. He loves it. Brightly coloured, spinning around. It's got beads. Hopefully I can afford to have Loz Cam available for you soon. I'll just pull that down a little bit. So yeah, did you like the approach I took today? I can tell you there's no shortage of stuff that I come across that makes me just go, oh wow. Would you like me to bring up more things which I think are absolutely bonkers and ridiculous like that? Did I show all of the ones? Yeah, I think that guy's a bit of a tosser. No. Oh, there's also a story that I did want to read in the Mercury, but I'm not paying to subscribe to the Hobart Mercury. but the headline says biologists say thylacine revival would send dangerous message. Researchers are closer than ever before to bringing back the thylacine, but a wildlife biologist has questioned whether it's a good idea and why he's sceptical. I would have liked to read that, but I'm not paying the Packers anything. So yeah, and I want to go back to say Nick Mooney is really well respected. Well, conservationist, biologist. Really deep knowledge of the wildlife of Tasmania, and really was pretty good at finding birds. Yeah, I agree, Loz. Let's sing his praises. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just having a look at. Actually, we might have a look at this. Yeah, we will have a look at this. Look, this is only 4 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. Let's have a look at this. Naomi, thank you. I'd love to see more bonkers things. I think pointing out the BS, and I believe that is bullshit, is a fun topic. Call your shows debunking or whatever. I'd rather call it just something bonkers bullshit. I don't think I really need to debunk anything. I just think, I mean, we're all looking at things that we're familiar with the scientific method, right? And I think the sad thing is that all of these let's get this ready to go. We'll have a look at this one in a minute. I'll probably get a strike on this. I think it's a ABC thing. I get hassled by the ABC all the time. Point and laugh. Yeah, I'll think about it. I'll see if I can find enough that I think are interesting enough to spend the time on. I just love so many things about that Forrest Galante set. Like if you took one angle and he's got his windowsill, and of course he's got a Harley Davidson model on his windowsill, and then the other shot has got his, all of the wankers, all those, the Andrew Tates and the, what's his name, Stephen Crowder and all those idiots, and they're all got their cigars and drinking whiskey and all that. So he's got his whiskey and crap on his back shelf. It's just like image. But he's obviously very successful with the amount of people he got what, Animal Planet, and just the amount of money that's out there for bloody bullshit. It's maddening. Anyway, this is from ABC Science. This is a short Catalyst bit, and Tom Gleeson, this is segments he did, The Secrets of the Australian Museum. And the headline of the video is, Can the thylacine be brought back from the dead? So, and again, why we get a bit, to get something sciencey, to get views, you have to get a comedian, right, to come and talk about it. Even with Anne Jones, they had to send her on a travel log, it's just the way of the world. It's very, very upsetting. But anyway, let's check out, Can the thylacine be brought back from the dead? Tom Gleeson's Secrets of the Australian Museum. This is on the ABC Science YouTube page.
Every specimen, like these extinct little potoroos or rat kangaroos, is filled with critical information about our world and the state of our environment.
The kinds of questions and puzzles are enormous. If you want to understand what was this species, what was it related to, what did it eat, where did it live, why did it go extinct, all those kinds of questions, you need to get access to the specimen itself. Maybe we can study its DNA. Maybe we can study this chemistry of its skin and reconstruct what it ate. Those types of marvelous things that we can do with modern science. So only by looking after these specimens in these cabinets do we really kind of end that chaos and bring some order and organization to our understanding of life on Earth.
And it's never been more important. Australia has the worst record of mammal extinction on the planet, with 50 animal species lost since the museum started collecting specimens in the 1860s. None more famous than the one I'm dying to see, the thylacine, or Tasmanian tiger.
You've got more than one.
Yeah, we do, and some of them are just absolute stunners. So I always get a bit sad when I look into this cabinet.
I know,
We're reflecting on something that is no longer with us.
Yeah, it's sort of bittersweet because it's exciting because it's such a famous extinct animal in Australia and the world. So it's exciting to see it, but yeah, it's also bittersweet it's still not with us.
Absolutely.
In September 1936, only 2 months after the species was granted protected status, the last known individual died.
We always kind of look at the tag to tell the story. And,
what year were you looking at there?
This one, it says, came to the museum August 14th, 1890. This is a specimen of a thylacine that's never been on display. It's only ever been carefully curated outside of the light in a climate-controlled area here behind the scenes in the museum.
Okay.
And it shows that kind of rich gray-brown color and the dark stripes, just a much more richly colored animal than most people imagine.
These furry remains could contain even more scientific insights. But Chris is keen for me to see a special specimen, preserved in a very different way.
This is our famous little thylacine pup.
That is outstanding. This would have to be the most famous specimen in the wet collection, is that fair?
I think it might be. It has kind of an iconic status. It's this heartbreaking picture of a well-developed thylacine pup, and it's preserved entirely intact.
Stored wet in an alcohol solution, scientists have access to the entire animal, every part of its anatomy, and even its genomic sequence.
So I have to ask you, can you get DNA from this?
Yeah, you can get DNA because it was preserved in ethanol and not in formaldehyde or formalin like many of our other specimens. It's actually a pretty good source of DNA.
Now, you probably get annoyed being asked this, but could the thylacine be brought back to life?
A lot of people have that question. It's really one of the main things people want to know about the thylacine. And to me, the answer is always going to be no. And one of the reasons is that the thylacine is such a isolated type of mammal on the family tree. You might think, well, maybe it's related to Tasmanian devils or quolls or other carnivorous marsupials. It is, but only very distantly, in the same way that a dog is sort of related to a cat. So very, very, very distant relative. And without a close relative, you're lacking basically almost all the tools you need as a biologist to ever have a chance of bringing this back.
And if you brought it back, you could have a thylacine plague too, which would be annoying, wouldn't it?
Too many thylacines.
You bring them back and then there's too
They're
many.
everywhere, yeah.
Short but sweet. So this again highlights the issue about what's popular now. You probably is that guy who's in charge of the collection at the Australian Museum. Is he correct in saying you probably can't bring back the thylacine, or are all the people who are raising money and through the University of Melbourne now, but of course it's all raising money, publicity, careers are going to be built off this. Movie stars, celebrities who think they're doing something positive. Do they actually think they're doing something positive? I don't know. Is it something we should even be thinking about? I just get so... I just get so annoyed about it. Yeah. Naomi, what do you think about if we called it bonkology? Bonkers, debunking, ecology, biology, geology, I don't know, zoology, paleontology, I don't know. Yeah. Martin, I think you're probably right, but what annoys me about even having the discussion is that it sucks air from the discussions about preserving what we have left, and it diverts funds to something that doesn't really have a purpose that you can really hang your hat on. What I don't know. Wouldn't we be better off trying to preserve the genetics that we already have and the habitat that we have? And how about that idea? What was that statistic? 40% of Australia remains unexplored. What? Actually, I want a definition of unexplored. Let's get... And you know that now with AI, that goes into the knowledge base now. Unexplored meaning. Let's go there. Adjective. This is from Oxford Languages. Of a country or area not investigated or mapped. And in usage, the unexplored rainforest. The other meaning, not evaluated or discussed in detail. The research focuses on the unexplored theme in European history. Okay, well, that sounds like crap, doesn't it? Yeah, that sounds like total crap. Yeah. That was astounding, wasn't it? Really. Naomi says, "I agree. I don't see the point in bringing back extinct animals. I really think the money would be far better spent on animals and birds that are on the brink of extinction." Yet, Naomi, I basically agree, except that I think that if it was possible and you had a bit like the passenger pigeon situation we looked at, where if you had the genetic material, a really close relative, and the technique could be done and you could bring back an animal or a bird, let's say, I'm not totally against it if there's somewhere for that animal to go back and live as it would have lived. But if it's to bring back the passenger pigeon and to have 10 of them or 50 of them in the large flight aviaries of 25 zoos around the world, what's the point? Is it the point to say that, oh, one particular research institute can do this, and then all of a sudden that research institute is raising funds to do it for other birds that could live in the flight aviaries of other zoos, 50 more zoos? Or we need some lizards and some frogs to put in our Jurassic flight aviary. And then you start doing all the other things, and then you get sponsorship for those. And I just can't see a practical use. I think it's a bit like the rhinoceroses are the closest case study. But then again, do we just want to maintain 5 or 10 rhinoceroses to live effectively in captivity? I can't see the point of the research unless, and taking the research to the point of practical execution of reanimating an extinct species, unless there is somewhere for it to live in the wild. Otherwise, to me, it's just like improving a new breed of pig, a new variety of pig to produce more pork. That's really just not, it just doesn't seem, just seems pointless. What does Naomi say? If they did it, I'd imagine the only point of bringing them back might be so they can be an umbrella species for an area to help protect in a massive amount of land, not in captivity. See, I'm more cynical than you, Naomi. I don't believe that if someone is, if somebody is successful in reanimating an extinct species, I do not believe that they would reanimate. Let's just say, for instance, it was possible to do it with the thylacine, and let's say that somehow through some genetic / cloning or the process that they're talking about with the passenger pigeon. All right, let's just say they did it with the passenger pigeon and they managed to get 100 passenger pigeons. Do you reckon they're going out to some forest in the northwest of the US and letting them go? Or do you reckon they're going to live out their lives in aviaries and being bred just like a pet? I mean, do we really think that that is what they're going to do? Let's say that the mammoth is reanimated. Do you really think there isn't going to be some land that is pegged out, owned by some Russian oligarch or someone in the western plains of somewhere in Tajikistan or something, that some oligarch doesn't peg out 20,000 acres and call it Woolly Mammoth Park and charge money? They're not going in the wild. It's just not going to happen. They're certainly not going to reanimate. Say they could reanimate the paradise parrot. Let's just say they could. Are they going to go to the Darling Downs and release 50 paradise parrots, but not have them at Taronga Zoo or they won't be at Taronga Zoo. They'd be at Australia Zoo. Let's be honest about it. They'd be at a private zoo. They'd be in some private collections in Europe and the States. This is not a conservation measure, as far as I can tell. Conservation biologists or geneticists, come on the show and tell me why I'm wrong. if I'm wrong. Naomi says, I'm cynical as well. I think you're right. They won't be released into the wild. I was talking to the reason for doing it all. Yeah. I think a lot of it is that some of the stuff they want to do with people, they can't do because of the law, so they want to do it with other animals. And if they can find a research body that will tick off on the ethical issues, well, then they'll do it. Yeah. Let's say hello to Facebook, Twitch. Hello, Twitch. Nice of you to be with us on Twitch. X, Twitter. If you're on any of the platforms that I just mentioned, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, /X. What's the other one I said? Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, X. You can comment like Naomi has been and how Martin has been, and I can highlight your comment and we can talk about it. And if you are on Facebook and you give me a like or some love, I will see it and I will reference it. Yeah, okay. So you've been good today, Loz. Oh, Loz is there we go. Trying to get steady. He was perched on the toy, but it's not very steady. There we are. I got to say, with the lorikeet and seeing the way it interacts with the toys, they get very. Loz gets very aggro, and I imagine that is very common. I can see why they are bullies with other species. Gets very upset very quickly, and really, there we are, getting very upset there, getting pretty hypo. Oh, but now he's having a stretch. He'll probably have a nap now. Okay. Okay, so I think we've decided that we might look for some more ridiculous things. I might check out more of this Forrest Galante. Is that his name? Forrest Galante. All I can think of is DeForest Kelly when I see the name Forrest. What is it with Americans with names like Storm and Cliff and Ridge and Forrest and Brick and Chad? What's wrong with real names, hey? Like Grant. Well, I don't like Grant. Anyway, that's enough of that. Anything else you guys want to bring up? Oh, look, the music has gone. I'll put some night driving on. I got to find some new music, don't I? Yeah, I really got to find some new music. Let's put this on. I quite like this one. Anything else you want to say? I'll probably come on tomorrow and do something. Saturday, Naomi, I've already started working on your growing seeds topic and some grass trees and some waratahs and a few other kinds of seeds. So that's what we'll be doing on Saturday on Habitat Gardening, and we will be at the normal time of 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which I think, what's that, that'll be the 2nd of March. How's that? February's gone. Oh, okay. Is it a leap year this year? Let's see. I think it is, isn't it? It is this year. Is this year a leap year? Yes, it is. That's why we've got 29th. Okay, I should have remembered that. Oh, good, Naomi. I hope you... How's your hip going too, by the way? So, yeah. I can tell you, Naomi, that you might want to, if you haven't got already, if you want to start getting stuff together, get some sharp sand, some peat moss, and some vermiculite or perlite. So you can get those in all of those are available in small bags. And they're the things you're going to need to get started with raising some stuff from seed. But we will talk about that more on Saturday on Habitat Gardening. Any final comments, anyone? Loz is doing a little dance up there. Good on you, Loz. I've learned a lot about lorikeet temperament having Loz on the crew. There we go. Yeah. So Naomi, you can buy a propagating mix or a seed raising mix, but if you want to be able to do some cuttings as well, I would get sharp sand or propagating sand, peat moss, and you can mix that, and vermiculite or perlite. Vermiculite is preferable, and you should be able to buy that in like a 5 litre bag, I would think. Sometimes it's only available in larger lots, and I'll have another option for you on the weekend. I'm going to play one more song just because I'm tired, and we'll just let this one run, and then this will be the end. With your hip, Naomi, with the dislocation, do you have to get any manipulation happening, or is it just rest, or how do you treat that? And say hi to your mum too, by the way. Hope her garden's rocking. Oh, good. I played the other thing and I yawned and everyone bailed. Ooh. I think that's fair. I don't begrudge anyone bailing when I start yawning. So okay, doing physio. That's great, Naomi. All right. Oh, look, you may as well, if anyone's got any suggestions of bird or conservation things you would like me to chase up or look into, I can look into them. I can do that. Oh, there's some construction going on at the house. Our TV blew up a week or two back too, by the way. So one of my monitors is being our TV here at the moment. So we've gone from having like a 55-inch TV or something to be having a, I think this is a 27-inch monitor, I think. And I have to take it out, unplug it from the computer, take it out and stick it in my little other box and watch internet TV at the moment. Ooh. Oh, I really should plug being a member or something, shouldn't I? Should I do that? Where do I do that? Here we go. I've got to do this, don't I? You can support the show. You can go to, you can go to this one. Head over to thebirdemergency.com/YouTube, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/birdemergency or thebirdemergency.com/coffee. Takes you to the same place. Thanks, Barb, for the renewal of membership too. That was terrific. There's 2 options if you to be like a member, or you can buy me a coffee, and that's just fling whatever you like at me. Or you can do an annual or a monthly membership. And I was going to do a members show tomorrow, but I went down the rabbit hole so far today for this thylacine thing. We might do a members show. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Tuesday. I might do one Thursday, end of the month, but I will. I'll email all the people who are members and supporters and let you know about that one. Hoping I'll get Ricky. Hopefully Ricky will be back for a deep birdwatching deep dive shortly. So try and get everything, all the regular things back on track. The end of the month, that's fair enough, isn't it? Oh, hello, new people popping in on YouTube. Hello, everyone. You've come into the end of the show. I'm just playing some music as we wind down, and I think we've pretty much finished. No more new comments. We've just been talking about one of our regulars' dislocated hip, which would be a nuisance, and we've been talking about habitat gardening, which is coming up on Friday on Monday. Actually, where's my habitat gardening? So, if you don't know about habitat gardening, that's coming up every Saturday morning. And let's see, Dawn Chorus. The Dawn Chorus will be coming up on what day did I say for the Dawn Chorus? Thursday the 14th of March is our next Dawn Chorus. And that's when you can go out and take a short video just with your phone. Really easy. Just go out early in the morning and film either you listening to all the birds that are around, or you can just film the scenery and all the birds that are calling early in the morning. Send me a video, please, if possible. Make it an MP4, and we will we'll discuss it. As I'm in Melbourne or Naarm, the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people, my Dawn Chorus is in Melbourne, but it's great if we can get them from elsewhere. We last time, what did we get? We had Naomi in Sydney / Blue Mountains. We had Gladstone, Central Queensland. So yeah, it'd be great if you're in any other part of the world and you want to be involved. Just jump in with that. Oh, great! You saw a koala. Might try to plant a koala eucalypt, but you don't know what to plant. Okay. Where you are, let's have a look. I'll just see if I can answer that gardening question for you right now. Koala, food, tree, Blue Mountains. I'm thinking that the spotted gum will be a good one, but we'll just see. Just see what I get in the list. Okay. Primary food tree species: the small fruited grey gum, Eucalyptus propinqua; red mahogany, Eucalyptus resinifera; mountain mahogany, E. notabilis; large fruited grey gum, E. caniculata; steel box, E. rummeri; Rudder's box, E. rudderi. Now that's from the. There's also 12 more rows. Let me have a look. Now, are you in the. You almost in the central and southern tablelands, aren't you? Eucalyptus viminalis, which is the manna gum. I don't think you want to be growing a river red gum. Just seeing what else might be quite small. Blakely's red gum, E. blakeleyi. Apple top box, E. bridgesiana. Yeah. There's there's piles, Naomi. If you go to New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment page and just go koala habitat and feed trees, and you will get a whole bunch of regionally appropriate plants. So I'll share that while we're at here. Let's share this screen. Okay, so there's the page, koala habitat and feed trees, and you have all of the areas to choose from. And I'm assuming that you're central and southern tablelands. So, and there's 2 primary species, both of which large trees, but Eucalyptus viminalis, I think you could probably get away with. And then you've got a bunch of secondary food tree species, and a bunch of those are much smaller, so better for the garden. So there we go. Go and check out that that page, and if you've got a spot, if you have a spot in mind, and if you've got a spot in mind, maybe send a photo. Let's talk about it on Habitat Gardening. Send some photos of the spot and give us an idea of the height of the plant that you would like to provide, or maybe do what I always encourage, plant a group so that you can get younger trees but more density straight away. Look at that. So we will... Oh, look, I didn't put it in, did I? There we are. That's the page, koala habitat and feed trees, New South Wales Government. So there we are. And there we are. There's a whole pile that you can get, but might be time to talk a bit more about koalas and possums in the garden too. That could be good. Okay. All right, folks. I think that's that. Oh, geez, 2.5 hours. That's more than enough. Done enough talking for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it didn't drive you as crazy and bonkers as it made me when I first saw that video. Feel free to send me anything that you think is stupid like that, or probably being less generous than I should be. Anything that is completely interesting and perhaps implausible, you can just send anything to me at grant@thebirdemergency.com, or you can send me messages on the whichever social that you're looking at, but I'm far more likely to see an email quickly than I am to see a social message quickly, except maybe if it's on Twitter or I think that's always the best. Okay, folks, I'm Grant. I'm a bird nerd. This has been the Bird Emergency. Sing out if you see a thylacine, a passenger pigeon, paradise parrot, or a dodo. Look forward to talking to you soon. Make sure you've subscribed or followed, because then you'll get the notification when I create the next stream, which hopefully will be tomorrow if I can find something interesting enough to talk about. See ya.